To One Coming North, Claude McKay's poem and the 5 themes of geography. To one coming north. At first you'll joy to see the playful snow, like white moths trembling on the tropic air, or waters of the hills that softly flow, gracefully falling down a shining stair. And when the fields and streets are covered white, and the wind-worried void is chilly, raw, or underneath the spell of heat and light, the cheerless frozen spots begin to thaw. Like me, you'll long for home, where birds' glad song means flowering lanes and leas and spaces dry, and tender thoughts and feelings fine and strong beneath a vivid silver-flecked blue sky. But oh, more than the changeless southern isles, when spring has shed upon the earth her charm, you'll love the northland wreathed in golden smiles by the miraculous sun turned glad and warm. 1922. What does a poem have to do with geography and its 5 themes? As it turns out, a lot. Let's start with the title, To One Coming North. The verb coming lets us know that the speaker is already there. He has already made the journey north. This poem then is addressed to someone making that same trip. But who? Where is north and where are they coming from? To answer those questions, we can apply the 5 themes of geography. You remember the 5 themes, right? Think, Mr. Help. Movement, the exchange of people, products, and ideas. Region, an area distinct from others because of its features, both human and physical. Human-environment interactions describe how the environment affects people, how people adapt and adapt to their surroundings. Location refers to where something can be found. There are 2 types, absolute and relative. Place explains the different physical and human features of a location. To answer our questions, we have to go back and look at American history and geography. Between 1861 and 1865, America's 2 regions, the South and the North, fought against each other. In this war, known as the American Civil War, the South wanted to preserve slavery, a cruel institution that enslaved millions of Black Americans, forcing them to work in the region's white-owned farms and homes. The North, led by President Abraham Lincoln, wanted to end slavery. In 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, a document that freed all slaves across the country. Sadly, it would take 2.5 more years for slavery to be truly outlawed across the country. For decades after the end of the Civil War, the majority of Black Americans continued to live in the South, where they faced terrorism and discrimination by whites, poverty, poor living and working conditions, and lack of opportunity. By 1916, however, African American families began leaving the rural South for cities in the North and West. This period became known as the Great Migration. Black Americans left the South seeking safety and opportunity. Entire families left for cities like New York and Chicago in the North, and Los Angeles and Portland in the West. Each family's departure would inspire another. This mass movement of people from the South also sparked the movement of culture and ideas. In the 1920s, a neighborhood in New York known as Harlem became the center of Black culture in the North. This flourishing of Black genius and creativity became known as the Harlem Renaissance. Writers, artists, and musicians explored the promise and heartbreak of their new home, and their influence spread across the country and the world. Claude McKay was one of those writers. Claude McKay had his own migration story. Born in the Caribbean country of Jamaica in 1889, McKay moved to the United States in 1912. He traveled first to the southern states of South Carolina, then Alabama, finally moving north to New York in 1914. There, he would become one of the most well-known writers of the Harlem Renaissance. In 4 short stanzas, McKay's poem tells the story of the Great Migration, a story of millions of Americans who moved from their rural communities to the urban centers of the North. He calls on his own journey to speak to those taking a similar northern path. It's a story of movement, of regions and places, and how a people adapted to their new home. The first stanza. At first you'll joy to see the playful snow, like white moths trembling on the tropic air, or waters of the hills that softly flow, gracefully falling down a shining stair. Tropic and hills. McKay is referring to his own home country and that of others coming north. Second stanza. And when the fields and streets are covered white, and the wind-worried void is chilly, raw, or underneath a spell of heat and light, the cheerless frozen spots begin to thaw. Cheerless. After the excitement of the first stanza, McKay describes the bitter cold of a northern winter. The third stanza. Like me, you'll long for home, where birds' glad song means flowering lanes and leas and spaces dry, and tender thoughts and feelings fine and strong, beneath a vivid, silver-flecked blue sky. Leas. Homesickness sets in. The new northerners miss their rural southern home. A lea is a grassland or pasture. Finally, the fourth stanza. But oh, more than the changeless southern isles, when spring has shed upon the earth her charm, you'll love the northland wreathed in golden smiles by the miraculous sun turned glad and warm. But oh, with this exclamation, McKay ends his poem with a warm invitation to this new home in the Northland, a home filled with promise, like spring after a long winter. We can connect each of the 5 themes of geography to McKay's poem and the larger story of the Great Migration. The 5 themes give us a tool for understanding the world and even our own story. So, what is your geography story? Where is home? What does home mean to you? Is this place your home? Or does home mean someplace else? Where do you live now? What country, region, state, city, or village, street, house, or flat? How have you adapted? How have you changed your environment? How has your environment changed you? Claude McKay wrote a poem. How would you tell your own geography story? Would you write a poem or a story? Would you draw or paint or make a video? Would you dance or sing or write a song? How will you use the 5 themes to tell a story about you?